you have to have a system. And that's where I see a lot of businesses fall down. They assign social to the intern or to the, president's niece, and they have someone else do this, and they silo this over here, and this person's in charge of trade shows. And there's no coming together, and there's no agreement at the beginning. Who is your most ideal client?
Hello and welcome to Brandtuned, the only podcast on branding that covers IP, which is intrinsic to business and brands. I'm Shireen Smith, lawyer, brand strategist, and curious business owner, keen to discover the secrets of effective brand building to create a successful business. My guest today is Priscilla McKinney, CEO of the Little Bird Marketing Agency. Welcome to the Brandtuned podcast, Priscilla.
Thanks so much, Shireen. I'm so excited to be on.
Great. Tell us a bit more about what you do and how you come to be at this point in your journey.
Wow. Well, what I do right now is I manage a team of digital content and visual experts, and we create systems for predictable lead generation for companies. So, companies and people who are really looking at their revenue and trying to figure out the big mystery in business, which is how do I manage growth? And the second to that is how do I get growth started? We basically create systems and then walk people through that. So that's what we do as a firm. And how I got started is incredibly convoluted, just like anybody else, I'm sure. Nobody has this straight path that they like to talk about in these business books, this meteoric rise to fame, or as I like to joke around, if I keep working at this another 10 years, I'll be an overnight success,
Yeah, exactly.
I think I've always had a knack for connecting dots that other people don't see. And I think I've just played to that strength over and over again. And eventually it led me to what I think is my most natural place, which is my degree in cultural anthropology, and then my real love of the art of business, bringing those together and saying, how can we connect some dots that other people aren't seeing to build a business and basically understand how consumers, and that is how humans, actually interact with our message. Like, what does it look like in the real world? Let's not do this, out there fluffy marketing, but what really is happening? Let's look at the data and also look at the authenticity of, the consumer experience, and let's make some decisions on that. So I think that's kind of how I came to lead a marketing team. And that's really, my perspective as I go forward.
When did you actually start your business?
I just celebrated 11 years at Little Bird Marketing. This is right now I own and operate 4 different companies. This is my main squeeze, and some of them are related. I was in business for myself before that, and that business is still going, albeit I don't really, have to pay attention to it during the day-to-day. My day-to-day is absolutely Little Bird Marketing. But yeah, that's been going solid here for 11 years.
Wow. So running 4 businesses must be quite a challenge. What are they briefly?
Yeah, I have a credit card processing company, and I really worked on that many years. And for people who understand that line of business, it's like a book of business. So that pays residuals. So I'm really not involved in that day to day. And then I have one that's called Skylark Advertising, which is a network of in business, like indoor digital billboards that are in a specific region around us. And so that's a nice complement to what we do at Little Bird Marketing for local clients. And then the other one is, Little Bird Marketing. But last year I acquired Clear Entertainment and Marketing Group, and I'm in the process of merging that one in. So really those people have become Little Bird Marketing, and those clients are all being, the whole M&A process is just winding up.
Wow. So what was it like at the beginning? What sort of challenges did you have?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is that I, opened my company in a smaller town here. And I distinctly recall that I was told outright that you cannot make money doing social media for companies. There's no money in that. I don't know if we all remember that life, but it's crazy to think. I think, what year was it that we got the iPhone? Was it 2005? Something like that. But it's hard to imagine life before that. And, I got started really helping people do some of that scrappy bootstrapping stuff with what was new. Let's really look at, at is social media. Let's look at some guerrilla, marketing campaigns. Let's put some dots together that other people haven't done. Let's not just mimic our competitor. And so, I think that environment where everybody was telling me I couldn't do it was an interesting, challenge for me. And I even remember sitting at a lunch, with a local TV, general manager, and him saying, well, if you're going to start an agency that doesn't do TV and radio, you're just not going to make it. You can't make enough money. And it's just so funny because digital marketing is basically saying goodbye to a lot of those kind of, interruptive, tactics. And it's really trying to get in alignment with the client and say, let me be helpful, not interruptive. And, things have just absolutely exploded. And, the nice thing is that I'm on the right side of history with that. But, I didn't know that at the time. I just really sensed it.
So what services do you provide then?
Our main IP that we created is a system called SOAR. And it is a content marketing system that is specifically designed to bring you inbound lead gen. And it is, the SOAR is an acronym, got to have one of those.
Yeah.
But it is strategic, organized, accountable, and repeatable. And this is what I find is so big about advertising, marketing, content, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you do so much as you have to have a system. And that's where I see a lot of businesses fall down. They assign social to the intern or to the, president's niece, and they have someone else do this and they silo this over here and this person's in charge of trade shows. And there's no coming together and there's no agreement at the beginning. Who is your most ideal client? Not who you're necessarily working for right now, but what we're working for is to say, if we can get that strategy and all agree to it, we not only know what to do next and how to build the content out, but we also know what we can start saying no to. And we really deliver the power to our clients to begin to say no to other marketing ventures, other ways of spending their money, if it doesn't fit their strategy, if it can't be organized, and if we can't hold somebody accountable to getting it done. And so 6 months later, a year later, someone's like, oh, I have a bright idea. Okay, great. I'm all for bright ideas. Is it a part of the strategy? Can it be organized? And who are we going to hold accountable for? And if it doesn't fit those, we can go ahead and say no.
What size businesses are they? I'm just thinking they're likely to already have a strategy of sorts, or are they much smaller?
You'd be surprised. I work from clients all the way from 2 million to 50 million. And you'd be surprised who in the middle there does not have a strategy. And some of them have actually done persona work. But honestly, the reality is it's in the drawer or nobody knows where it is. And, they keep writing content, but they don't really know who their audience is. And one of the other pieces to that is once clients kind of get a little bit bigger, they start getting in that 2 to 12 range. Of course, they have a lead marketing person. And they're spending anywhere from, let's just say it could be all across the region. You might be paying, $60,000 to $100,000 for this marketing manager, right? And of course, at a much higher level, you're paying much more. But let's just say your average company there who's like, hey, we're finally going to hire one person who's in charge of marketing. Well, that person in marketing many times comes to them and says, what do you want me to do? I'm happy to do it. They're very excited. They love marketing and they want to do something, but they don't come to the table with the strategy, with the system, and know how to actually direct the company so they can execute, but they're not quite sure what they're executing. And we have a blend. That's painting it all to one side. We have a blend of people, but when you hire one person, you're getting one skill. When you outsource that for the exact same price, you would pay one person and you get the strategy, you get, the whole, everything from us of, award-winning designers. We have, social media experts. We have Google Ads certified people on the team. We have a web developer, a photographer, a videographer. And so for that same price, you can actually outsource and get many more skill sets that you can't get with just one or two people in your department.
Presumably, you're reporting into somebody in the company. It wouldn't be the CEO. So, who oversees and manages your work?
Yeah, it's so funny. This kind of brings me back to my ideal client. I can't work with the owner. I can't work with the founder.
Mm.
If that person is the person who's going to be our liaison, we're kind of, it's not going to work because they really need to focus on the business. So yes, we do have to have some person who is the point contact, who is the liaison, but we do it on a transparent project management board where they can come to it when they need to. We work so far ahead that we don't have these pressing everyday calls and nobody comes in and says, oh, what are we going to, post to LinkedIn this morning? You know, we've thought about that 6-8 months ago, and these things are happening for the majority of content out there. It's evergreen. We know what we're going to be putting out 6 or 8 months from now, and those things are already scheduled. They're already hashtagged. They're already researched. They already have keywords involved, and we know where the call to action is. We know how we're trying to bring that ideal client through the buyer's journey. So once we get set up, we really try and work with minimal interruption to the team. But yes, we do have to have a point of contact over at the, other business. And depending on how large they are, what the volume of deliverables we're doing each month, that person may need to have really a piece of their day carved out, or a piece of their week really carved out for something in marketing to connect with us.
So what's involved to set the strategy? How long does that take? I imagine it must be quite sort of involved.
Well, we usually take a 2 to 3 day, depending on what the time, how much we can get the right people in the right room at the same time. But we've brought it down to our system. We have, we realize going into it, we don't know their business. And we're never going to know their business as well as they do. But what we do have is a real system that we've put in an order where we can effectively ask really strategic questions and get the answer from them. They come into that meeting, they're not even prepared. They have all the genius in their brain. And even when we have multiple people in the room, they'll talk back and forth and fight for their idea. And it's so great for us. But we kind of are like the midwife in that situation. We don't have to birth the baby. We got to be there to catch it. So we're relying on their genius, and we're just basically taking all of these, very seemingly unrelated comments that the client makes, and then moving it over into our system that's very organized. So 2 to 3 days with them to go through the process. And then we kind of go away for about a week or two. And internally, we take all that information, codify them into personas, codify that into a hashtag report, codify that into keyword development, codify it into many slots like that. So we know that strategy going forward. Where's the opportunity where this company has an interesting and unique fit that we could actually amplify and seize that opportunity for the company?
Right. So what sort of branding will businesses like that have had? Won't they have had somebody working through the brand with them, helping them to understand their content strategy? How do you find that they are, these businesses, when you come across them?
Yeah, honestly, it's not our ideal client. If they have a complete strategy, set up, and, their branding is on point and they're very happy with their content and it's producing leads, that's not an ideal client for us. So we're looking for the people who really have been focusing on growth and they've outgrown the marketing. And I like to put it this way. I selfishly am looking for clients who are delivering every day at an 8, 9, or 10. Like they're knocking it out of the park. They're so intent on their business. They have good sales processes. They understand, their product. They're delivering on customer service, but their marketing still looks like a 2, 3, or 4 because they haven't gotten around to it. And so what we, see as ideal is for us to come in and say, look, I can't change what you do and how great you are, but if you are really that great, you have that 8, 9, or 10, all I have to do is bring your branding and marketing up to the 8, 9, and 10. I'm not trying to, if they're performing at an 8, I don't want to make their branding and marketing a 10 because we need to make it feel like them. It's not our job to come in and, what I would call little birdify them. They're not little bird. We don't put our voice, we don't put our stuff on top of it. We just look at the company and say, how can we match your message to your brand promise and bring you up to the level at which you're performing so that there's congruence in what people are experiencing and what people are feeling, and how the right people get attracted to them.
So, what sort of changes might you make to their existing branding?
Well, a lot of people, we may come back and say, look, this logo is not working, or we need to expand the color scheme. Those are kind of some small tweaks we could make. On the other hand, one of the biggest changes is once people do the persona work and realize, oh my gosh, we have been spending so much marketing money kind of trying to get anyone, that if you go to our website, there's no path to purchase. People go there and we're not even clear about what we do, and then we don't really something that we would want them to do next. So we may look at something like, the difference between how many visitors come to their page versus how much time they spend on the page, and say, oh, that would be a clue to say there's something wrong on your webpage. So, do we need to rewrite this copy, and basically weave in your magic and your marketing message in a way that makes sense to the most ideal client, and it weeds out the people who are not ideal. So it is about also saying no to some people. And so a lot of times, where if we're not dealing with changing the brand, which we don't come in necessarily with the goal of changing brands, we're there to consult, but a lot of times it does end up where we are changing copy, or we're changing, the user experience on the website to bring that kind of congruence together.
What do you actually do for them? Do you create the content, or do you
Yeah.
ask them to create it for you?
Yeah, there's a mix of deliverables. We set up all the strategy, and then basically we go on with a marketing retainer. We require a year contract, and we decide how much, it's about their budget. Nobody has an unlimited budget. So what can they budget per month? And we take a look at that, and we start with the 4 pillars. That is social media, blogging, email, and what I would call a lead magnet, or some people call a freemium or a valuable download. Whatever it is, it's the kind of thing that is gated content where they're building their actual list. So they have to come up with something that is of undeniable value to their most ideal client, and offer it to them with the exchange that that person would give up their anonymity. So those are the 4 pillars of really solid inbound content marketing. So we start there and we say, okay, well, how much can we get done with your budget? And yes, let's say we're going to do 12 blogs this year. We're going to do 12 emails. We're going to do 600 social media posts, and we're going to create 1 lead magnet. So we set those deliverables. We're not this fluffy marketing like, oh, we're on retainer and we'll just do things that you want us to do here and there. No, we set an entire year. You can see on our project management board the entire year developed up of the content calendar, and keep track of it from there. So yes, we create the strategy and the structure for it, but then we come back around. We create the graphics, we put the hashtags, we schedule the social, depending on what they're paying, we may even ghostwrite the blogs, or we may interview their staff to write the blogs, or they may have somebody on staff who's very strong and really wants to write the blogs. All those things are negotiated in what the cost is per month. We're really saying, how much of our time do you want? How much do you want us completing the entire process? And we're a HubSpot certified firm. And so typically we're working on HubSpot, which is a marketing automation software. And we're experts in that. And so we know how to make everything connect and how to build really strong reports that really give the owner and their, stakeholder team a view every month of what is going on. How are we progressing, and can I see it in the data?
Right. So I assume they're in pain when they come to you. Maybe they need more leads, they need more business. Do you
Right.
actually give them any promises, or do they generally expect to see some sort of return if they're subject to a 1-year contract?
Yeah, we don't give anything like that. And where we really kind of bring in the repeatability, that really comes in year 2, because we need to set some benchmarks. We need to understand where they are before we can set some goals and have an actual recalibration of what they're doing. And so we don't come in and say, we'll do this and it'll bring this many leads. I feel like that kind of stuff is, just, first of all, a dime a dozen on the internet. And also, it really doesn't understand the nuance of business. Because if I were driven just to bring you so many leads, well, I'm going to bring you so many leads. And I'll use a case in point. We just onboarded a client who had a firm and they were spending the same amount with this firm that they brought over to us. That firm was bringing them 30,000 hits to their website a month. Now, that's a lot of hits.
Mm.
But when I dug into that data, when he was considering working with us, I dug in it and found that they were bringing people from, for example, a link that would be, oh, do you want to consolidate your debt? And bringing them to a B2B function website where people would be buying very high priced market research packages, and consulting. And that makes no sense. So when people give guarantees, I really feel a lot of times they're looking for numbers that are a quantity and not a quality. So we don't come in and give those kinds of guarantees, but our feet are held to the fire for the numbers. And we have very, very high level conversations about where does this number need to go now that we know where we are. And month by month or quarter by quarter, however often they want to meet, we're really having a deep discussion about what that looks like and whether we're achieving those goals.
So, what was your own experience of creating your brand? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually bought the leasehold improvements from a gal who kind of had started this marketing firm, but just really wasn't, wanted to leave the area, but it wasn't going super well. But she came to me and was like, Priscilla, you would be ideal for this. And in fact, I had been referring some clients to her for a while because I kept finding myself doing marketing, talking to people about marketing, giving them free consulting. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why don't I refer them to her? At least I could get a cut of the business. But I loved it. And I really had a knack for it. And she called it out. And she's like, I'm thinking of leaving the area. I think you should take over my business. And I did. And it was her own business. It was her own name. And I really transformed it from a traditional local, regional, advertising agency truly to a digital content marketing agency. So I really changed the trajectory. But about 7 months into owning the business, we here in Joplin experienced the only F5 tornado on record. And within about 20 minutes, we lost about 35% of our town. And in that time, it was obviously incredibly intense in business. And 3 weeks later, I stood at the sidewalk looking at my creative studio and it was burning to the ground. And so in the middle of like a trauma with like a joint trauma in our town, then I experienced my own 3 weeks later, but I found myself in the middle of people who truly understood what I was going through and knew, so many people of us at that time were going to completely rebuild our businesses, literally rebuild our businesses from the ground up. And I took that opportunity to change the name, rebrand. And my idea was, I don't want to work for everybody. I wanted to have a small group of people that I could have really deep conversations with, and they would be special because they would be in the know. And I would be special because I would be in the know about what's really going on below in their company. And this very small kind of circle and this idea of very good news led me to name it Little Bird Marketing. And the idea is when you really are excited, you really have some good news to share, you usually say, a little birdie told me. And I liked this idea because what it connotes is that you're in the know, you're on the inside, and that there's a community, there's a camaraderie in that. And I really wanted that to be the essence of our brand promise.
So presumably you intend to exit the business if you're buying other businesses and merging them in.
Yeah.
Is that your ultimate game plan?
Yeah, I think it would be, there's too many businesses, I think, who work their whole lives and then, they walk away and they don't get that kind of payout. So absolutely, I don't want to work forever. I do some other consulting. I teach people how to become, and I teach like whole sales teams how to become influencers on LinkedIn and Twitter. And that's something that I can take and consult. And obviously I can do some higher level strategy work as I exit, but I've got a lot of years here and I am mindful of that. And right now I'm absolutely building the leadership team and really trying to do as much as I can to pass my knowledge on, and also to hire people who are smarter than I am and really, celebrate that and say, what can you bring to the table? And if we can find enough good stuff, let's make a bigger table. What can we do here? And really to be open about that. But we also serve a niche market. We happen to do more than 50% of our business in the market research industry. We really know those people and we're known by those people. And so right now, my strategic hires are to bring people in who already have deep knowledge of that industry so that we, very quickly can get people, they can learn our system, but they already know this industry. And there's just a real rich value to that to our prospective clients.
So have you registered Little Bird Marketing as a trademark?
Yeah, I have. And actually, it's so funny because I was looking at it the other day and we have to redo it because we've completely rebranded again. And that's like the story of, agency. We constantly, rebrand. On the other side, there are agencies who really don't even do marketing for themselves. But when we started and created this IP that is SOAR, we were our first client. And it's kind of like I'm very against the idea of the cobbler's kids who have no shoes. It's a refrain I use an awful lot. And I don't know that I would trust a marketing firm that doesn't deal with these same pains, the same frustrations, the same challenges, and for their own brand. I understand where my ideal client is sitting. I understand how hard those things can be. And I understand that so many people are throwing all these ideas at you, and it's very hard to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. So I've been through that process, and I constantly put myself through that process so that, I can really be mindful of it, going forward.
Right. So you're going to register Little Bird Marketing and SOAR as trademarks.
Exactly. Yeah, we're in
Yeah.
the process for the IP right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
we actually just finished a new branding for SOAR about 4 days ago. So we really wanted to lock that down. But we've been doing it for years and perfecting it. But yeah, it's time to really own that system. And people license it when they come to us. There's the onboarding fee that includes licensing SOAR, because even say 2 or 3 years later, if they're not working with us, they still have that system intact and they still can use it to organize their own work.
What, so your clients license it from you?
Yeah. So buying that IP, that's inherent in our first onboarding, and we teach them how to use it. But after that, they use it themselves. The interesting thing is we have clients that are now, here we are 11 years old. We have clients that have been with us 8, 9, 10 years. So, people find that, at first some may come in and say, okay, do it for us for a year or two and then we'll do it. And then they realize, no, why would we do this? This is so much more efficient with experts handling it for us. And we also scale up with them. So they're not necessarily having to make those hard decisions about, do I hire an next person? Do I not? They really only need that one, and they can continue to scale their business and grow without having to really bring on more of that overhead. And I think, right now that's something that's, super desirable to people. They don't want to have people on, the payroll who aren't necessarily doing a full-time job or are kind of, getting up to speed. That's something that's, really difficult right now during a global pandemic. We have to know that every, seat on the bus is absolutely performing at the highest level possible.
Right. So I missed what SOAR is. Are there deliverables that they can take away and continue using to help them in their content?
It's an actual online manageable system. So it completely shows, let's say, for example, when someone says write a blog. Okay, well, you think that writing a blog is one action when in fact it's about 52 actions. And so the system is a checklist system of going, okay, do this first, do this next. Okay, don't forget this, and it's a system where then, once they've learned it and they've seen it in action, they can take that and then replicate it. So the idea is you just don't have to reinvent the wheel. Look at wheels. We made several wheels. Here they are. This is how to do it effectively. And so it's kind of that idea in so many marketing departments where people say, okay, we're going to do this new thing. Okay, they learn what they missed after the fact, whereas we've already thought through those processes and we have an entire list to make sure that we don't have something fall through the cracks.
I see. So it's something you keep updated and they have access to an online resource, presumably, and they
Exactly.
pay for that.
Right. And we joke around and say that we're actually not a marketing agency, but a sleep improvement agency because where people, who are really involved in the revenue of a company are having a hard time sleeping on Sunday night. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Or, in the middle of the night on Wednesdays, it's like, oh, where's that project? We finally calm that down and, really, speak to the people who are in the hotspot for driving revenue in their companies to say, look, we've got this. This is, if you want to know where it is, you can go look. And when someone says, oh yeah, I'm almost done with that blog. Well, what does that mean? Do you have 40 steps left or do you have one? Like, I want to really know what you mean. And so this kind of like, either working with a company through email, which is an absolute nightmare. No communication like that is ever good for a team. Or if we're just trying to give an update to a client, we can give an update to a client, but they could also look on the board and just know exactly where any project is at any given time.
Wow, oh, interesting. Okay, finally, which brand do you particularly admire, Priscilla, and why?
This is interesting. Well, I have to say the Roku brand is one that I absolutely admire. And I can think back to really a user experience and customer experience. And now that UX and CX is really a hot topic, listen, Roku, worked it out with an exchange with Netflix many years ago. And I remember just being in disbelief when they sold me the first Roku and they said, yeah, you'll get it in a box and you'll be setting up and streaming content within 3 minutes. I'm like, that is not going to happen. And not only was the box and the user experience very cool and the instructions like a literal 1, 2, 3, like not this thing that used to come when my parents would buy something that is a pamphlet about all the things that you need to do. Literally, you hook this up, press this, go on your computer, arrange that. It was done. We were streaming content in 3 minutes. I couldn't even believe it. And this brand promise, I just remember that being a real inflection moment for me about what brands can do. And on the other side, I think one of the other brands I really admire is BET, a Viacom company, Black Entertainment Television. But I was recently talking with one of the head of Insights, and they were talking about the money that they were putting through this last year, really researching and developing a great plan to serve their most ideal client and really help move the needle on a social program, which would help with the historical problem of Black males being disenfranchised from the voting process. And I thought to myself, I'm so excited by this conversation. But then I kind of took a step back and thought, this is a company. This is a for-profit company who is spending their profit to serve the client. And just being able to spend all that time, I thought about all the people that are on that team driving that kind of a social change. I just admire that so much. And that's not, that's not their primary mission, but they understand it, that it is a part of their mission. I really respect that.
So a purpose-driven brand.
Yes, exactly. And, I have another friend who talks about it this way, says, he likes to work with companies that are impatient for change. And I really admire brands who are impatient for change and say, look, it's not going to be someone else. Why can't it be us?
Great. Well, thank you very much indeed, Priscilla.
Absolutely, Shireen. This has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
That's it for this week. Do subscribe to the BrandTuned newsletter to get weekly updates. I'd also love to get your feedback. Just send me an email to info@brandtuned.com. Finally, if you liked the episode, please do share it with your friends and colleagues and review it on iTunes or whichever platform you use to listen to podcasts. If you leave us a 5-star review, it means more people will listen and we can spread the word much more quickly about the podcast. Thank you and bye for now.